Single mom's shocking blind date. Twist. You won't believe the CEO's inspiring reaction. Sarah stood at the diner's entrance, her stomach knotting at the thought of the blind date her best friend had insisted upon. A single mother to 7-year-old Max, her world had become a hustle of late-night shifts and balancing bills. The notion of love felt like a distant dream, buried under layers of worry and exhaustion. Today she feared stepping into a new season, one where vulnerability could expose her to ridicule. Why on earth had she agreed? Doubt hugged her like a shadow as she shuffled toward the booth, the sound of clattering plates and laughter swirling around her. She spotted him, Alex. He was a broad-shouldered man, the kind who held authority with ease. Uncertainty clawed at her heart. Seated next to him, she felt like a mismatched puzzle piece. What could a successful CEO find appealing in a waitress? Her palms were clammy, mind racing with the familiar weight of inadequacy. The scent of coffee mixed with the diner's greasy charm, but all she could taste was fear. Would she be simply a short-lived distraction for him? They exchanged pleasantries, and as their conversation flowed, Sarah couldn't help but feel drawn to his warmth. Yet, with each shared laugh, a gnawing voice whispered that their realities were worlds apart. Alex spoke of tech innovations and business expansion with such ease, while Sarah's life revolved around the mundane, school pickups and late-night shifts. Every anecdote from his life tugged at an old wound, resurfacing the insecurities she had tried to bury deep. Could she ever bridge that gap? Before Sarah could respond, an urgent call interrupted their moment. Alex's face turned serious, his professional mask slipping into place as he answered. It burned inside her, the dissonance of emotions. She admired the way he commanded attention, yet resented how his responsibilities always loomed larger than her own. Maybe he only saw her as a waitress, an avenue for a fleeting affair. As the waitress bounced by, she caught Sarah's eyes, recognizing the tension stretching in their corner. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Alex's conversation drew her attention, back to the reality she had hoped to escape. Could he even understand the choices she made? The sacrifices she endured? As he hurried through his work call, Sarah's heart thudded with frustration, torn between admiration and a suffocating sense of powerlessness. Was it naive to want something more than this? Just as he hung up and turned toward her, an electric pause enveloped the air. In this moment of vulnerability, Sarah realized she had to confront the invisible wall she had built. "You might be the CEO of a major company," she started, her voice wavering as the revelation hung between them. "But I'm just trying to survive." In the palpable silence that followed, she felt the weight of her fears collapse around her, with Max's face emerging in her mind. A sweet reminder of her deepest longing for connection. What they had felt in that diner hung delicately like a thread, waiting for someone to pull it taut. Would they be brave enough to let it unravel? The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken words. Sarah's heart raced as she met Alex's gaze, searching for something, validation perhaps, or acknowledgement of her truth. What she found instead was a flicker of understanding amidst the shadows of his own guarded demeanor. "Surviving is tough," he replied slowly, his voice low but steady, as if he was weighing every syllable. "I've been there." Those words landed like a stone in the pit of her stomach. She hadn't expected him to relate, much less admit that he too had faced struggle. They began to speak openly, drawing from their layered lives. He told her about the sleepless nights navigating his burgeoning company, his early days of uncertainty marked by failure. He described a call from an investor that had nearly sent him into a tailspin, how he learned resilience through rejection. As he spoke, the invisible gulf began to shrink. Unexpected common ground revealed itself between the intricate details of their lives. For the first time, Sarah felt the edges of her self-doubt blur. Maybe it wasn't about the lofty advantages of his position, but rather the empathy they shared through perseverance. She couldn't quite shake the lingering thought of their differences, yet with each story, she realized that struggle didn't recognize status. Her feelings evolved from envy to admiration. He had faced his share of hardship. He was human beneath the polished exterior. "I've always been the one to put others first," Sarah admitted, her voice steadying. Max is my priority, but sometimes I wonder if I'll ever find a life beyond this. The admission hung in the air, laden with years of sacrifice and expectations swallowed whole. Have you ever thought of pursuing anything more for yourself? Alex asked, tilting his head slightly, studying her with a keen interest that sent a tingle of hope through her. She wasn't entirely sure how to respond. The thought had crossed her mind like a shadow, but dissipated as quickly as it came, banished by insecurity. Dreams feel a bit reckless when you're raising a child alone, she said slowly, reflecting on all the time she put aside her ambitions for stability. Yet, there was a spark igniting in her mind. What if stepping outside her comfort zone was the key not only to growth, but a richer life for Max? Reckless can lead to great things, Alex countered tenderly, leaning forward, his eyes locked onto hers. Taking risks could be the very thing that ignites your passions. His belief stirred something deep within her. Exploration over confinement. Sarah felt waves of determination washing over her, as if she were finally glimpsing the other side of her self-imposed barriers. Suddenly, the raucous chatter around them faded, and the world shrank until it was just the two of them, a flicker of connection that pulsed with possibility. I guess I've often shelved my own aspirations, she shared, her voice softer. Hobbies, goals, they all feel out of reach when you're just trying to make ends meet. Perhaps it was time to reclaim her identity beyond single mom. Maybe exploring one small step could help, he suggested, his tone encouraging. What would it look like if you took that leap? As the question resonated, more profound implications rushed through her. What would it mean to become more than just what her circumstances defined? It felt terrifying yet exhilarating to contemplate a new path. Then, with unexpected intensity, Sarah felt the swell of ambition rise within her, the faint heartbeat of a dream she had buried. However, as she opened her mouth to respond, the sudden ring of her phone pierced the moment. Heart sinking, she glanced at the screen. Max's school calling. A rush of urgency pushed her. I have to take this. As she answered, fragments of their conversation echoed in her mind like a siren call. A challenge to confront her fears, to reach out toward an unknown. Somewhere in the backdrop of her life, the echo of possibility resonated, as did the need to redefine her horizon. What choices await her in this uncharted territory? Would she dare to embrace the risks of personal growth, or would she retreat back into the routine that felt safest? The conversation faded as Sarah moved to a secluded corner of the cafe, heart pounding as she answered the call. Max's school was on the other line, and the principal's voice came through, calm but with an undercurrent of urgency that sent icy tendrils of anxiety through her. Your son is feeling unwell. We recommend you pick him up as soon as possible, the principal said, the weight of her child's health making the prospect of any aspirations feel audaciously remote. Of course, I'll be right there, Sarah managed, her mind racing. Every instinct within her screamed to prioritize her son. She felt the walls close in again, tightening around her ambitions, the dreams that felt so close moments ago seeping back into the shadows where they had long lingered. As she drove through the familiar streets, she replayed Alex's words in her mind. The aspirations she had tucked away felt like tantalizing whispers, ghosts of potential that had once danced in her spirit. But those whispers dimmed as the reality of her responsibilities took center stage. Their conversation had sparked something profound, but every twist and bend in her life reminded her of the impossibility that loomed. Eventually she arrived at the school and rushed inside, her heart aching for Max. As she entered the nurse's office, she was met with her son curled up on a cot, face pale and drawn. His eyes lit up with a flicker of relief at her presence, but when he attempted a weak smile, all her ambitions were drowned out by a tidal wave of maternal instinct. While she comforted Max, feeling the heat of his forehead against her palm, Sarah battled an inner storm. Why did aspirations feel so selfish in the light of his needs? A part of her believed that focusing on herself, on pursuing what Alex had ignited within her, would mean jeopardizing the stability she had fought so hard to cultivate for him. Yet, another voice whispered fiercely, urging her to embrace both their futures. As they arrived home later, Max nestled comfortably against her side on the couch with blankets and hot soup in hand. Sarah mulled over the growing urgency in her life. She had always been able to spin her life's challenges into manageable threads, weaving together a fabric that kept their small world intact. But now the threads seemed to tangle, and she felt suffocated by the choices before her. Sleep tugged at her eyelids, but as she rested next to Max, her mind buzzed. The prospect of pursuing a hobby or passion had felt like a distant joke when wrapped up in the struggles of motherhood. Yet was it possible that pursuing her desires could create a richer life for both of them? She imagined what it might mean to take that leap, a scary but exciting notion. As the night deepened, Sarah finally allowed herself to entertain the possibility of crafting a plan. Perhaps setting small goals for herself wasn't so reckless. Perhaps, if navigated carefully, it could be an inspiring journey for Max to witness, a lesson in resilience for them both. Then the phone rang again, interrupting the fragile quiet of the moment. It was Alex, and her heart skipped a beat, caught between fear and anticipation. "Hey, Sarah. I couldn't stop thinking about our earlier conversation." Would he urge her to delve deeper into herself or let her retreat into safety? The possibilities that hung around his words promised a tension she was desperate to explore, threading her ambitions with newfound complexities. "Can we talk?" he continued, his voice steady yet inviting. As he waited for her response, Sarah felt the stirrings of a decision unfurling within her. She could either succumb to the familiar routine that had protected her or embrace this moment, teasing out the future that had finally begun to materialize. "Okay," she replied softly, feeling the weight of the world shifting. "I can meet now." What awaited her on the other side of the conversation? She couldn't help but wonder as a flicker of determination ignited within her once more. The cafe was bustling with evening chatter, a stark contrast to the stillness of her thoughts. Sarah arrived early, her pulse quickening as she made her way to a table tucked in the corner. The familiar aroma of coffee and pastries enveloped her, but it felt lost against the quiet tempest swirling within. She glanced at her phone, contemplating Alex's invitation for this conversation. They had only skimmed the surface earlier, but now it felt charged with unspoken potential. Would he help her navigate the opposition she felt between her responsibilities and her aspirations? As she sipped her lukewarm coffee, she felt a bloom of vulnerability soar within her. Alex's voice lingered in her mind, inviting her to examine the possibility of reconciling her life as a mother and her dreams. The question loomed large. Could she truly balance both without losing herself in the chaos? When Alex arrived, he looked composed, embodying the confidence they'd talked about. His presence seemed to fill the space, and for a moment, Sarah felt dwarfed by the enormity of her own thoughts. She was reminded of her insecurities, the fear of stepping too far beyond the confines of her familiar role. "Thank you for coming," Alex began, settling across from her. His eyes were thoughtful, reflecting a genuine interest that made the weight of her aspirations feel tangible. "I've been thinking about what we discussed, and I wanted to hear more about what you envision for yourself." The tenderness in his approach reassured her, pushing against the walls she'd built around her dreams. "It's been hard to allow myself to imagine anything beyond being Max's mom. Even saying it out loud felt like tearing open a wound. I struggle with the idea that prioritizing myself is selfish." "Self-prioritization isn't selfish," he countered gently. "It's vital. What would you want to pursue if nothing stood in your way?" The question hung heavily in the air. Sarah wrestled with it, digging deep into the compartments of her heart. She thought of the projects she had shelved, the articles she wanted to write, the skills she had wanted to explore. "I've always wanted to write, maybe even pursue journalism again. I just don't know how to start." "Then let's break it down," he said, a soft smile spreading across his face. "What if you set aside small blocks of time each week to write? Start with journaling or blog posts. Just something that gets the words flowing." His suggestion opened a door inside her mind, possibility flickering like a candle flame. "But what about Max? He needs me so much." "Of course he does," Alex agreed, leaning in slightly. "But what if by nurturing your passions, you set an example for him? Show him that it's okay to pursue dreams while being present." Her heart raced at the thought, the duality unfurling like a map before her. It felt exhilarating. Could she genuinely pursue her interests and simultaneously foster Max's growth? Would he appreciate her journey instead of feeling neglected? Just then, a rush of urgency consumed Sarah, punctuated by Alex's steadfast gaze. "You have to decide what kind of mother you want to be, Sarah," he prompted, his voice steady. "One who sacrifices her essence for her son, or one who inspires him by living authentically?" The contrast stunned her. It illuminated a stark choice she had glossed over for years. Her heart clenched at the idea of letting go of long-held fears, but also fluttered with the thrill of new possibilities. Could their mutual journey be one of growth rather than separation? "I like that idea," she said slowly, the breath of ambition filling her voice. Maybe I can set a goal for myself. Something manageable? Exactly, he encouraged, beaming. What's the first step? Just as she contemplated her answer, the cafe door swung open, and an unexpected figure strode in. A man dressed in sharp attire, exuding a presence that commanded attention. As he caught sight of her, Sarah's heart raced again, not from fear but from a burgeoning curiosity. Alex had made her see a path, but what if this stranger held an opportunity that would change everything? "Who is that?" she asked, her eyes widening. What awaited her beyond this moment? The figure that had just entered the cafe was magnetizing, drawing every eye in the room, especially Sarah's. He wore a tailored suit, sharp and immaculate, but it was his confidence that struck Sarah most. She couldn't help but wonder about the story behind his poised demeanor. As he moved closer, an inexplicable sense of anticipation washed over her. Alex followed her gaze, momentarily distracted. "You know him?" "No, but I feel like I should," she admitted. The man reached their table, and her curiosity veered toward apprehension when he introduced himself. "I'm Carter. I couldn't help but notice you here." His voice was smooth, and a hint of intrigue coursed through Sarah. It felt as if he was assessing more than just her appearance. "I'm a publisher," he added, offering a handshake that sent a jolt of energy through her. "I'm always on the lookout for interesting writers. Why don't we chat?" Sarah's mind buzzed with possibilities. Here was a professional chance so unexpectedly offered it nearly took her breath away. "I'm Sarah. It's nice to meet you," she said, taking the chance to embrace the moment, as Alex looked on, his expression a mix of encouragement and mild surprise. "What do you write?" Carter leaned closer, genuine curiosity lighting his eyes. In that instant, Sarah felt Alex's previous words echo in her mind. Nurturing her passions could inspire. Nevertheless, a wave of doubt crested within her. The idea of self-promotion felt foreign, perhaps even presumptuous. She took a breath, letting it steady her nerves. "I'm exploring freelance writing, mainly personal essays and feature articles. I want to get back into journalism." Carter's gaze didn't waver. "Personal stories resonate. People love authenticity, especially in today's climate. What's stopping you?" The directness in his question prompted her to confront her own mental roadblocks. "I juggle being a mother and have always put that at the forefront. Adding a writing career feels overwhelming." "Not if you're passionate about it," he replied, his expression shifting to one of understanding. "To thrive, you need to prioritize. There's no perfect time to start. Just begin small and evolve." His words resonated deep within Sarah. It wasn't merely a rehash of Alex's encouragement. It was a call to action that ignited something raw and daring. Between Max's needs and her lingering insecurities, Sarah was caught in a web of self-doubt that left her feeling paralyzed. Alex then interjected, sensing the intensity of the moment. "It seems like you have a lot to offer, Sarah. This might be the push you need." Sarah hesitated as vulnerability clawed its way back. There it was, the nagging voice that told her to retreat into the comfort of her routine. Would pursuing writing truly serve both her and Max? Or would it mean losing touch with her primary role as a mother? Carter watched her wrestling with indecision, then added, "Living authentically doesn't mean neglecting your responsibilities. It's about balance." His assurance settled heavy in the air, laying the groundwork for a pivotal transformation. "I think you should make that first step," Alex echoed, nudging her onward, compassion spilling through his tone. "What do you want, Sarah? Maybe a blog?" The words edged out as if she were testing them in the world. "Exactly. You could share your journey, your experiences. Other parents might find it relatable, inspiring," Carter encouraged, his demeanor inviting her to dream. With each exchange, Sarah felt the boundaries of her fear shift ever so slightly. The thought of documenting her journey, her successes and failures as both a mother and as a dreamer, fired her imagination. Yet just as her courage began to solidify, a wave of apprehension gripped her again. "Now that I'm thinking about it, what makes you interested in helping me?" she questioned, her voice firm despite the flutter in her chest. The question hung heavily in the atmosphere, tension crackling like static. Sarah needed to understand. Was he genuinely invested in her goals, or was this an opportunistic whim? Carter smiled knowingly, a hint of challenge gleaming in his eyes. "I see potential, Sarah. Find your voice, and you may surprise yourself. Besides, I believe we tend to rise to the occasion when given the right circumstances." Her mind raced with the dichotomy of this revelation. In just a few moments, she felt a weight lift off her shoulders, but also a stirring fear of the unknown that narrowed her vision. As Sarah considered her next move, a decision that could branch into new territories of self-discovery, her heart pounded with the mounting tension of possibility. In the parallel universe of her mind, visions of articles, blogs, and the voices she wished to amplify filled her thoughts, yet shadows of doubt lurked on the edges. But was this a turning point, an opportunity to forge a new path? She faced forward, ready to reach for it. Just before she could respond, her phone buzzed, an unanticipated message from Max's school. Her world, suddenly hurled back into her chaotic current, stirred emotions within her. "Excuse me, I need to check this," she mumbled, anxiety clawing her gut. What was awaiting her there could change everything. Would she be pulled back into the safety of her duties, or thrust into the exhilarating unknown that beckoned? The possibilities now felt endless, as did the weight of the choices at hand. Sarah could sense that her path was about to diverge. She needed to decide quickly. And what lay behind the message could either anchor her back or propel her forward. The cafe buzzed on around her, filled with laughter and life, blissfully unaware of the crossroads surging within her. The moment Sarah unlocked her phone, a rush of apprehension flooded her. The screen lit up with an urgent message from Max's school, a notification about a sudden meeting regarding a behavioral issue with her son. As her heart raced, she felt trapped in a cyclone of worry and responsibility. Was this the moment she would be called back to the unyielding terrain of her existing life, casting aside the invigorating idea of pursuing writing? "Everything okay?" Alex asked, observing her shifting expression. For a fleeting moment, she wished to confide in him, the swirling doubts, the weight of motherhood pressing down on her, but she was uncertain how to express the tumult within. I need to check on Max," she stammered. The words slipped out half-formed, leaving a bitter taste of frustration in their wake. Carter leaned back, his composed demeanor unshaken. "Your son is your priority, but don't let this opportunity dissolve into a phantom. Life will always throw a curveball." His understanding echoed within her, sparking both irritation and gratitude. Was it that easy for him to preach balance when he clearly had no idea what was at stake for her? The juxtaposition of his polished confidence against her chaotic reality ignited an inner conflict, a chasm between ambition and obligation stretching wider by the second. As she pushed aside her mounting anxiety about the meeting with Max's teachers, about being seen as an inadequate mother, Sarah sought to focus on her burgeoning dreams. Inspiration nestled at the core of her ambivalence, the remnants of Carter's words festering under her skin. "Find your voice." "Right," she said, shaking her head as if to clear it. "I will check in on this. But I can start the blog, right? I just need to dive in." It was as if she was testing the idea aloud, letting the notion float like a paper boat on uncertain waters. Carter nodded. "Start working on it tonight. Set some goals and create a schedule. Writing doesn't have to consume your entire life, but you need to carve out time for it." "Will that really work?" She regarded him skeptically, torn between doubt and hope. "Absolutely," he replied, his charm untarnished. "You possess the experience and insight to connect the dots for others. Your words can resonate beyond your immediate sphere, but you need to give yourself permission to shine." There was a slight quiver in her gut as she replayed his statement. Permission. There it was again, the haunting notion of needing validation, of asking for the right to chase her aspirations. In that instant, Sarah's phone buzzed urgently again. She glanced down, bracing herself for another wave of responsibility intercepting her in the form of an impending meeting with the school. "Sorry, I think this might have to wait a bit longer," Sarah managed, her voice cracking slightly. Carter placed a hand reassuringly on the table. "Don't sell yourself short, Sarah. Every moment can carve pathways. Do what you must for Max, then come back to the writers you want to be. I'll be here cheering you on." His words stirred something within her, a blend of resolve and apprehension. Was she capable of balancing her duties, her son, and the dream that sat just beyond the horizon like a lighthouse beckoning her? The temptation to retreat into the shadows of only being a mother clawed at the edges of her thoughts. Rising from the table, she felt an electric sensation, a tether between the two starkly different realities. She was a mother, yes, but she could also be a writer, even if just starting small. As she propelled herself toward the noise of the cafe's exit, she resolved to risk stepping through that door into the unknown. But before she embraced her next steps, she felt a twinge of doubt resurface, the juxtaposition of concurrent responsibilities was dizzying. Could she brave the confrontation with those who questioned her capabilities as a mother? As she faced her impending meeting, an unsettling thought surfaced. Was she prepared to confront those doubts soon to be echoed by others? And in the resolute beat of her heart, she knew this was not simply about Max or about writing. This felt like the stark beginning of a deeper confrontation with her own psyche, a battle against the whispers of inadequacy. As she entered the school, the bustling hallways sent a jolt through her. Mixed feelings tangling with new clarity pressed against her. A confrontation awaited. Would this meeting define her path, calling her back to the safety of her routine? Or would it clarify the strength she possessed to forge her own identity? But one thing was certain. She could already feel the looming presence of the challenges ahead, waiting just beyond the school doors, mixing with the anticipation of something new. Whatever happened next, it was bound to resonate with a profound significance. She was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The atmosphere inside the school felt off-kilter, each step reverberating against a backdrop of anxious whispers and shuffling feet. Sarah's pulse quickened as she approached the designated meeting room. Anxiety clenched her stomach, manifesting as a tightness in her chest. What could these teachers possibly say? Would they confirm her worst fears about her parenting? Though she had prepared herself mentally for this moment, nothing could properly align her thoughts. Each doubt feeling like an insistent nagging whisper at the back of her mind, questioning her every step. As she reached the doorway, she paused, reminded of the words Carter had shared. The very notion of finding her voice echoed loudly in her head, a reminder of both her aspirations and the emerging urgency of the situation at hand. With a steadying breath, she pushed the door open. The faint smell of chalk and polished wood enveloped her, drawing her into the warm glow of overhead lights. Seated at the table were two teachers, their expressions a blend of concern and professionalism. In that moment, Sarah realized this meeting could become a cornerstone of her transformation. How she approached this could either empower or belittle her, both as a mother and as someone yearning to assert her identity beyond those titles. "Thank you for coming, Sarah," the principal started, gesturing for her to have a seat. Their cordiality did little to ease the unease swelling within her as her thoughts tangled. What lay ahead? They launched into a discussion about Max's behavior, citing instances of defiance and restlessness in class. Each point felt like a punch to her gut, sending waves of guilt surging through her. Had she failed him? The idea that her personal ambitions impacted his well-being threatened to suffocate her resolve. She fought the urge to defend herself, to project her frustration onto the teachers, instead of embracing the shared responsibility of her son's upbringing. As their conversation progressed, snippets of their insights began to peel away her self-doubt. They recommended strategies involving clear communication with Max, reinforcing both boundaries and creativity. Their concerns never wavered from a place of compassion. After all, they wanted what was best for her son, too. With each suggestion, the embers of realization sparked that she wasn't alone in this struggle. After an impressive back-and-forth filled with ideas and joint discussions, Sarah left the meeting feeling lighter. Fueled by an emerging sense of agency, she had been both heard and understood, and that validation seemed to awaken something dormant in her. Taking her seat in the car, she could finally reflect on the words she had exchanged, not in defeat, but in collaborative triumph. This journey was about ownership. It wasn't just about parenting or pursuing her passions, but recognizing the intertwining paths of her life. For once, the burden of being a single mother didn't eclipse her dream of becoming a writer. It illuminated it. Gripping the steering wheel, she couldn't shake the notion of carving out time for the blog she had mentioned before. The idea of weaving her experiences, her struggles and triumphs, into narratives resonated deeply. She could channel her fears, her growth, and her love into writing. But as she began to pull out of the parking lot, a question lingered. Would her newfound determination withstand the inevitable challenges ahead? The nagging voice of doubt dared to return, taunting her with thoughts of what could go wrong. She could feel the pull of cynicism looming just outside her window. Yet with a wave of defiance creeping back into her soul, she resolved to harness this new power. No longer suffocated beneath the weight of others' judgments, she recognized her right to be both a mother and a writer. Arriving home, she sat on her bed with her laptop perched before her, fingers trembling just above the keys. This was it. She was finally ready to dive into this new endeavor and reclaim part of herself. Yet with every intention to write a first post, another uncertainty unfurled. What would she say? As she stared at the blank page, the internal dialogue drowned her once more, but now it fueled her willingness to confront these fears. The voice that had once silenced her hopes was now demanding a stage. With determination crystallizing in her heart, she started typing, fueled by a fleeting recognition of the truth. Deep inside, the real confrontation was with herself, and she was more than ready for it. And just as she began to uncover her narrative, the phone buzzed again, a new notification flashing on the screen, reminding her that Max needed her once more. Would this meeting set off a new point of conflict in her development, or could it guide her journey ever higher? Sarah took a deep breath, the flickering screen blurring into the background as Max's name flashed once more on her phone. The reality of motherhood tugged at her, a constant reminder of responsibilities and the endless loop of caring for someone else. Yet this time, a flicker of resolve warmed her heart. Maybe this was not another interruption. Perhaps it was a chance to explore how to weave her aspirations into her daily life. With the phone pressed to her ear, Max's voice seeped through, a mixture of confusion and urgency. "Mom, I have a problem with Michael, and I don't really know what to do." His words cracked through her concentration. "Okay, tell me what's going on," she replied, focusing intently, trying to format her anxiety into something constructive. As he detailed the incident involving a small misunderstanding about a game at school, she recognized an opportunity for growth, both for him and herself. Instead of jumping to fix his dilemma, she asked questions that encouraged him to express his feelings and thoughts. Who did he think should resolve it, and what he needed to communicate to convey his feelings better? It was during those exchanges that her fingers began to itch for the keyboard again, the blank page beckoning her once more. She felt alive, the rush of their communication igniting a sense of connection and purpose that she had hoped to capture in her writing. Yet as Max assured her that he'd work on resolving the situation, that same wave of self-doubt crashed back in. Could she maintain this level of balance between being there for him and nurturing her own dreams? This time, she was armed with the insight from her meeting. It was about reinforcing boundaries but also creativity, finding ways to express herself while being present for her son. The time had come to plan her next steps. Before she could talk herself into procrastination, she opened a clean document. She felt the adrenaline rush as she began outlining her blog. The title, it needed to reflect the essence of her fight for identity, the struggle of motherhood intermingled with her aspirations. "What about moments of clarity?" she mused, typing it out, feeling it take shape. Each word became a precious emblem of her journey, a tapestry of vulnerability and experiences she had navigated. What had once felt daunting became alluring. The idea of turning her parenting lessons into relatable narratives emerged, giving her the push to dive deeper into herself. As she continued to type, sharing her trials, mishaps, and small victories, she uncovered the skills she had neglected for years, the art of storytelling mixed with raw honesty. Hours slipped away, and as she brushed the final lines of her post, an unexpected surge of pride coursed through her veins. She felt an empowering connection to her own voice, a voice that had always been there, just waiting for her to listen and amplify it. But suddenly, doubt seeped back in. What if it wasn't enough? What if it wouldn't resonate with anyone? The triumphs and fears began to crumble like dry leaves on a chilly autumn day. She could easily enable those familiar voices that told her she wasn't cut out for this. And yet, she reminded herself of the meeting earlier that day. Those teachers believed in Max, in the potential for growth, just as she needed to believe in her own potential. With her teeth biting into her lower lip, she lifted her hand from the keyboard, surveying the words sitting there like quiet soldiers, waiting for her command. Her heart raced with this new reality, the very idea of sharing her vulnerabilities both thrilling and terrifying. As she pondered whether to click publish, another notification chimed from her phone, a text from Carter, the man who had become a surprising voice of support in her life. The words flashed on the screen. "I want to talk to you." Tension filled the room. How could she possibly navigate this? Would he challenge her burgeoning confidence, or uplift it? With a mix of anticipation and trepidation dancing in her mind, she considered the heart of the message, wondering what revelation could come from such a conversation. Would it bring her closer to understanding herself, or distract her from her emergent path? The future felt murky, yet charged with potential. Facing yet another confrontation, Sarah had to decide. Was she ready to embrace this developing relationship with Carter while pursuing her dreams? And how would this shift her trajectory as both a mother and a writer? Sarah sat still, her phone in one hand and a heartbeat echoing louder in her ears. Just moments ago, she had felt the thrill of discovery as she tapped into her writing, But now, the impending conversation with Carter loomed like a dark cloud threatening her fragile momentum. Max's conflict had strengthened her resolve, yet uncertainty about Carter's intentions swirled within her. Should she take a leap? What if this bond tarnished the delicate balance she'd constructed as a mother and budding writer? Minutes passed before she made a decision. She would respond to him. Confidence catalyzed by significant self-reflection surged within her. "What do you want to talk about?" she typed, each keystroke echoing her need for clarity. While waiting for Carter's response, doubt festered. What if he didn't understand her new path? The prospect of sharing her vulnerabilities could be different for him. Could he accept the growth she was pursuing alongside her role as a mother? Then the reply came through. A simple, "Can we meet for coffee?" It wasn't much, but the invitation felt heavier than it should. She took a deep breath, a mix of anxiety and excitement washing over her. This was an opportunity to share her journey, the new chapters unfolding within her. She felt the thrill again, but this time, it was intertwined with the fear of rejection. As she typed her agreement, the phone rang again. It was Max. "Mom, can I have a sleepover tomorrow, and then we can work on my project together?" His voice, infused with youthful eagerness, brought her back to the present. She winced at the commitments piling up, but realized this could be another chance. "Yes, we can plan together," she said, surprising herself with how smoothly the words flowed. Her son felt like a partner now more than a dependent, and she relished the notion of being there for him while also carving a new identity for herself. An idea sparked, intertwining her writing with Max's project. What insights could she gain from helping him that might contribute to her blog? After hanging up, she reclaimed her seat at her desk, a space lit by the soft glow of her computer screen. The pulse of excitement returned. This time, she opened her blog draft rather than hesitating. Invigorated by renewed purpose, she started typing again. The idea of interweaving lessons from mothering into her stories seemed even more crucial now. A tale about how planning a project could serve as a life lesson in collaboration and resilience formed in her mind. As she listed potential topics for her next post, her thoughts turned back to Carter. She was mentally preparing for their conversation, knowing it could either encourage her or pull her back. Was this meeting an opportunity to gain a mentor, or a risk that could shatter her growth? When the clock ticked closer to her meeting time, she felt a wave of nausea paired with exhilaration. The coffee shop would be filled with strangers, like an audience waiting for a show. It offered a chance to explore new relationships while also affirming her own identity. Or would it distract her from the careful boundary she had begun building? On her way out, she glanced at her reflection in the hallway mirror. There she was, a woman caught between identities but firming up into someone who could juggle it all. With determination, she stepped out, ready for whatever lay ahead. Would Carter understand the woman she was transforming into, or would he expect the same version of her from before? And how would that affect her journey into motherhood and her writing? The meeting loomed ahead like a whirlwind of possibility and fear. With her heart racing, she realized that maybe, just maybe, she needed Carter's insights to confront this new horizon, one where growth exceeded expectations but also demanded sacrifice. As Sarah walked into the coffee shop, her heart quickened. The atmosphere buzzed with conversation, the aroma of brewed coffee hanging thick in the air. Each step toward the table where Carter awaited felt monumental. She was no longer the hesitant woman who had walked into the diner for a blind date. She had stepped into the light, claiming her identity, her aspirations as a writer, and the commitment to be a devoted mother. This was her time, and confronting Carter was the next step toward achieving her newfound resolve. "Thanks for meeting me, Sarah," he greeted, a warm smile illuminating his face. "I've been eager to hear about your journey." "Thank you for the opportunity," she replied, feeling an unexpected sense of calm wash over her. As they settled into the conversation, she could feel the shakiness in her hands diminish. The simplest topics turned into powerful dialogues as she shared her aspirations and insights from her recent experiences. "I've decided to start a blog," she proclaimed, her voice steady. "I want to share my journey as a mother while exploring my identity outside of motherhood." Carter listened intently, nodding in encouragement. "That's fantastic. Authentic voices resonate with people. Your story can inspire others." His approval felt like a green light, affirming her choices, energizing her desire to write. With every exchange, Sarah felt the weight of self-doubt lifting. She watched as Carter's genuine enthusiasm solidified her ambition, reframing her outlook on what success could look like. "I also want to incorporate life lessons from raising Max into my writing," she ventured. I believe that the struggles I face can resonate with other parents navigating the same path. Start writing those stories, Carter replied, his voice inspiring confidence. Don't wait until you feel completely ready. Let your experiences flow. Collect moments and insights. Write what you live. As they continued, Sarah found herself reflecting deeper. Could it indeed be so simple? She was no longer the woman hesitant about taking the leap. She was a mother with a mission. Their conversation unearthed new paths for stories that she didn't even know were within her grasp. Can you help me brainstorm topics? She asked, excitement bubbling within her. I need to dive into narrative threads that intertwine personal challenges with Max's growth. Carter's eyes sparkled. Absolutely. How about exploring themes of resilience in children? You could illustrate that through your experiences managing life as a single mom. Think of it as a journey for both you and Max. The synergy between them was palpable. Ideas blossomed like wildflowers under spring sunshine, vibrant and full of potential. Each suggested prompt deepened her understanding of her journey. But it also cemented her decision. She wouldn't shy away from embracing both motherhood and her ambitions. As they wrapped up their conversation, Sarah felt a surge of renewed determination. There was no storm cloud of doubt swirling above her. The sunlight of possibility spread wide, dispelling shadows. She wasn't just a mother, nor just a writer. She could embrace both roles, weaving a rich tapestry of her life, reflective and multifaceted. Driving home, the future felt electric. Max awaited her, his own journey unfurling alongside hers. The idea of cultivating a bond that emphasized mutual growth invigorated her spirit. It was time to teach him resilience while juggling her aspirations. Each moment would serve as a reminder that she did not have to sacrifice one for the other. Returning home, she gathered her laptop, and a smile crept across her face as intuition guided her. Moments of Clarity was a testament to her evolution. The initial phrase transformed into an entire document filled with ideas, aspirations, and reflections about her career's beginnings. She began typing her first post, recalling her hesitation in the coffee shop. Within her, she recognized remarkable growth. Every word from her fingertips felt like a declaration, a commitment to herself as both a mother and a writer. It was vivid and alive, illuminating her world as she was stepping boldly into the unknown. A soft knock interrupted her reverie. It was Max, peeking in with wide eyes. "Are you working on your writing, Mom?" "Yeah, I am. Want to help me?" she offered, inviting him into a new phase of their lives together. "Can we write a story together?" His eager smile radiated warmth, and Sarah's heart swelled at the prospect. "Absolutely. Let's create something amazing." From that moment, they leaned into their new roles, Sarah guiding Max through crafting his own narrative while simultaneously forging her own. This moment crystallized everything she had discovered. The duality of motherhood and ambition seamlessly blended in their shared stories. Together, they began to weave their identities, creating a space that enriched both their lives. As they wrote, Sarah reveled in the realization that she had conquered her fears. She had embraced her aspirations while remaining the mother Max needed. Her journey was only just unfolding, brightly fueled by fierce determination, ignited by new connections, and buoyed by the love she nourished in her heart. This was her moment of clarity. She was a mother who was also an emerging writer, conquering doubt, ready to inspire others with her journey. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will touch your heart. You must leave a like now to feed the algorithm and give life to these powerful narratives. Comment your reactions and theories about how Sarah's journey might evolve. Share your insights and become part of this community. And absolutely, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring conclusion. This is the moment to show your support for transformative stories that highlight personal growth. Don't wait even one more second.